Ready for the video?
I am.
Present practice. What is vibing? This is Vish and
David.
And today we'll be responding to Sadhguru's video on
Does traveling help in spiritual growth?
So today I'm here with
David.
Wanna introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm David from Long Island. I'm 20 years old. That's about it.
What do you like to do for fun?
Skateboard, scooter, loiter. I also enjoy traveling. A lot of it's from scootering or skateboarding. Like, I'll go to different cities to stay with people, film there. Yeah. I'm going to Seattle next month. Going to San Diego in January. It's the most recent upcoming things coming up.
Cool. And how spiritual do you describe yourself? Let's say from 1 to 10.
7.5.
What does it mean to be spiritual to you?
So I know there's like the whole part of like astrology and all that, but for me, spirituality just kind of means like you're just like in tune with yourself and your surroundings, like not really like just understanding why things are happening, like understanding that people are just like people, I guess. Like, I know that's like a bad way to put it, but I don't know, you can't really, for me, spirituality, I don't know, I was raised Presbyterian, so it kind of falls in the lines of religion, but it's also like really not. So for me, it's just like religion for atheists, kind of. It's like, if you don't have that like understanding or meaning behind why you're doing stuff, it's just like, I think it's the right answer, not to like diss any religion, but just, I don't know. It just seems more like, for me, it's just understanding what happened before and what might happen after you. I think what boils down to, it's like, I think that's where a lot of like, I don't really know how to explain it, but like the same feeling you get when you like hang out with your grandparents, like that kind of like energy, you can say. That's what I like associate with spirituality. So I guess like, I don't know, older people are just more like, they know more, so they know what's happened before us, might happen after us, and not really surprised by it, you know? Like, I think that kind of associate that with spirituality. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing that, David. Really grateful for that perspective on spirituality, and you kept it fully transparent. That's what matters here. And yeah, I think that's interesting. And I'm not going to give too much about my opinion of what spirituality is, but would love to hear from the audience. What do you think spirituality means? And you can comment down below. Have you heard of a guru named Sadhguru before?
I have not.
Let's watch a video by him.
Let's do it.
Irene was asking about my travels. I said I travel everywhere in the world without even $1 in my pocket, you know. So now, when it comes to material well-being, it's always best that you equip yourself to earn what you want, and it's no big deal, it can be done. If only if you equip yourself, if you don't clutter yourself with too much nonsense and greed in you, if you simply equip yourself, everybody can reasonably earn what they want, of course considering the social situations of that particular society. What is rich in one society and what is poor in another society is very different, isn't it? Yes? See, now the village that we went to, if a man earns 100 rupees a day, he feels quite rich. That's $2 per day. Do you understand? Not $2 per hour. You're earning what, $50 per hour? Even if you're just a laborer somewhere else? $2 per day, he feels quite great. If he earns $4, he's super rich. So what is poverty, what is wealth is very social, isn't it? Today, because of the communication levels, everybody is trying to become a billionaire, and which is anyway not sustainable. It can be a huge collapse for the whole world somewhere. That's different. Otherwise, always what is affluence and what is poverty is very, specific society, isn't it? Among those people. See, right now, one of the laborers bought a new bicycle today. His joy is untold, You won't have that joy even if you get the Mercedes because there's somebody else driving a Maserati. So, what is, in terms of physical positions, what is rich and poor is a very relative thing, it's a social thing, it's not a… So within the norms of that society, earning what you want is not difficult if you just don't get too cluttered up in your head. Everybody can do it. It doesn't take any great intelligence to make money. Just need some perseverance and some doggedness to pursue something and make some money out of it. Because people are too screwed up in their heads, every little thing is so difficult for them. Otherwise, in that society, making some reasonable levels of well-being, material well-being, is not difficult to anybody with normal sense of intelligence. You don't have to be extraordinarily brilliant for that. In fact, brilliant people don't make much money because they're smart. Irene was asking about my travels. I said I travel everywhere in the world without even $1 in my pocket. I don't have a single dollar in my pocket. I go to any part of the world without any problem. And I've been having a credit card that somebody got me. In the last 6 years, I have not used it even once. It never occurred to me that I must get into credit, nor the requirement came. Always something will happen around me, So, isn't it very smart to live without money?
So David, what do you think so far after watching this?
I thought it was good. I like how you started off by the question was, does traveling help spiritual growth? And he started off with, the first thing that came to my mind was kind of like, why are you traveling in the first place? What's the reason? And then he started with depends on what kind of traveling. He said either from airport to airport, from bedroom to bedroom. It's not really. Yeah, he didn't say anything about. He didn't say anything about that. He just mentioned it, which I thought was nice. He also started off with the more pessimistic points of it. He said when you're moving, you're getting rid of your comfortability, your routines along those lines, which I agree with. But yeah, overall, I agree with what he's saying. It's just, for me, traveling just such a vague term, just because one, people's I guess you can say distances, perception of distance are different. So someone could be Mr. Worldwide and nothing really means anything to them, whereas someone goes somewhere and they see something crazy and it'll impact them.
That's the problem. That's what I said, they get cluttered. They got envy, they got jealousy, they got problems what other people will think. Because of this, they cannot employ anything of themselves properly. That is the whole problem. Now when you have no sense of envy, no sense of jealousy, no sense of comparing yourself with somebody else, you will use everything that you have properly, and what has to happen around you will happen according to your capability, that's all. And everybody has enough capability to earn what is necessary for him. He doesn't have to go through big circus to do it. With reasonable circus, he can do it. You are investing your whole lifetime to make a living. What's the point? Yes? Most people are investing their whole lifetime just for their material well-being, isn't it so? Dying to live, this is called. You don't want answers, only questions? So, if it comes to material well-being, please just use your brains and your body, it'll happen. And the practices that you have started definitely will enhance your ability to use both your body and mind in a big way, in a very big way. I would say 25–30% of your time in a day if you spend, you must be able to earn sufficiently to live well. Rest of the time, you must focus on other dimensions of your life. That's how life should be. In 24 hours, if you work for 4 hours or 5 hours, you must earn enough money to live well, actually. There's no need to spend 18 hours just trying to earn money, If you're doing something else that you care to do, that's different. You work 24 hours a day. That's a different thing. So if it's money and material thing, not necessary to invoke gods,
So David, what'd you think after watching this whole video? How was it?
It was good. The second half he kind of talked more about self-awareness, and he mentioned, he said, your awareness is your life, and like the more self-aware you are, the more like lively you are. And I agree with that to an extent, because I feel like, I guess for people who aren't self-aware or like trying to become like that, it's a bit like daunting on you mentally, just like thinking like that, just having that sort of mindset, and just like not really, I don't want to say living in the moment, but like if you're having these thoughts of like I don't know, just like questioning like what you're doing, where you're at type of thing, like, or just like trying to be spiritual, or just like understanding whatever, like making sense of what's happening. I feel like a lot of times it's a rabbit hole, because you can't really ever do that. And that's what I feel like, that's what I meant by like older people are more spiritual just by nature, is because like, they know more, and they're not really like, nothing's new to them, if that makes sense. Like I feel like everyone who's trying to be spiritual or like along those lines are kind of like, that's not, it's like, okay, I feel like spiritual people, like I don't want to say like, obviously the environment you're raised in plays into how you act and how you think, and I feel like people who weren't really raised like with that kind of mindset, it's not really instilled in them, so it's kind of like a stressful thing, especially when they get older. Like the lady, she was saying like, she said, I think she looked like she had a family. She said something about like a significant other and like stuff like that. And I just feel like if you're at that age, like still thinking about stuff like that, especially like if you're doing like real life adult stuff, it's just like too much in your head. At least for me, because I know like especially this year, just been like a lot of questioning and stuff like that, and just like you're like doing stuff and you're just like, why am I even here? Like what am I even doing? Like that type of thing. But if you're in that mindset for too long, I feel like it's just like it'll never end, like it's just not really something that has an ending to it. So you're just kind of like chasing this thing that's like, you're never going to feel satisfied, because there's no such thing as a perfect person, but everyone wants to be a perfect person.
Exactly. I was going to quickly ask you, would you say maybe a question that arises, like what is the purpose of life? Is that something that maybe comes into place?
For me, yeah, definitely. I am more, I'd say, like existentialist or like just nihilist type of person, just because, I don't know, meaning of life, yada yada, there's a beginning, there's an end, so like the stressing about it isn't really like, if you know like who you are, there's no reason to like stress about that kind of things, that for at least in my case, for me. But I don't know, I definitely, when I was younger, like I was raised pretty, I wouldn't even say raised Christian, because I never like I just went to church, like religion was kind of like, just felt like a cult to me, so kind of turned off by it. But I don't know, I feel like people follow religion the same way they would being like self-aware, so it's not really like you're self-aware, you're kind of devoting that energy towards like a thing. So
cool. I appreciate you sharing that perspective, and I was going to quickly share with you this analogy that I actually had, which, going off of like what is the point of life, and I've questioned that too, right? It's a very existential and common, I think, normal question. If you have that, that's okay. And actually, before I share what I had learned from this experience, would love to hear what you think the point of life is in the comments down below. Basically, this analogy was, I had this realization this one day. It was essentially on the lines of how, imagine you're given, have you seen Iron Man? So imagine you're given the Iron Man suit, right? You can do all these cool things. Now you and I know, I mean, just like every material thing, everything is finite and it'll eventually break down, get torn down. And so imagine you have this Iron Man suit right in front of you and you're aware that's eventually going to break down, just like this human body. But then instead of like using it to have fun, to serve humanity, to do whatever, we just stare at it and question, what is the point of the suit? What is the point of life? And so the point here is, I think the human experience itself is like the Iron Man suit. I mean, we have so many superpowers. Just think about it. Even being able to talk right now, these are such things that we take for granted. And by just literally just realizing that we have this suit, we have this limited time, let us make the full use of it and have fun or do whatever. I mean, instead of asking those questions, I think these questions are fine, but I think kind of like how you'd mentioned too, it can be very limiting, and at the same time, you're just wasting time at that point if you keep thinking about it for too much. What do you think about that analogy? Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely see the analogy. I wouldn't say I'd treat life like the Iron Man suit, because me personally, I think everyone, I don't want to say predestined or like whatever you want to call it, but I think everyone has the opportunity to like make their mark on the earth and like on a really big scale. So I just like, I don't know, to me it's just like, just reach the biggest scale you can, if that makes sense. And like, I mean, also I was born 2001, like birth of the internet, so I feel like that's why I kind of have that mentality, just because like you're raised with people just like reaching everyone, just like getting that exposure. So I mean, for me, meaning of life, I'd say it's different for everyone. I think at the root, you gotta take care of your parents at first. I think that has to be like, you know, your priority. Then obviously they'll pass before you, ideally. So you kind of have to figure out what you're gonna do after that.
So what was your biggest takeaway from watching this video with regards to traveling and how it affects spiritual growth? How would you describe that takeaway you had from the video?
It definitely made me question like what traveling means to me, because I've had both traveling experiences where it's like in my control and out of my control. And then I was just thinking like, if you're financially set and you've always been, and then you go travel, right? You're not really, he talks about in the video, you're not really displacing that comfort, you know? You're not really changing your perspective on things, so it's you're just the same person in a different area, you know? So definitely traveling definitely makes the world seem smaller, and you just see everyone's like different kinds of group of people, and obviously that will do something for you, like make you grow as a person. But I think it's like a double-edged sword, because people can definitely, it can mess with them for sure. Like they can see bad things, they can, you know, literally just think the entire world sucks. So I think it's just a personal thing. I think overall spirituality and traveling, I mean, traveling is like a spiritual thing you hear about in every religion, like they go on some sort of voyage, you know? But I feel like nowadays traveling isn't really, he said airport to airport, and when I thought about it like that, you know, it's like place to place, it being the same kind of place, like city to city, like wherever, like same environment to same environment, you know? And it's like a vacation, you're not really moving, you're just, vacations aren't traveling. Like, I'm gonna be honest, that's not traveling. So, I don't know, getting that exposure is good, but if you're treating it like the same routine, same ritual, same whatever in a different place, you know, you're obviously not gonna grow. You gotta change as a person.
Thank you for sharing that as well. And what do you think about the Guru himself after watching this video for the first time, right? You've never watched Sadhguru before. Would love to hear honest thoughts about just this one video. And obviously we all know, I mean, he has thousands of videos, so any sort of judgment is not going to, you know, do it justice for who he really is. But, I mean, first impressions matter, and so what was yours like?
No, yeah, he's sick. He's in the video he was motorcycling across the states, and he's like from India, right? So yeah, that's sick. I mean, yeah, if he's doing that kind of stuff on the road and like trying to spread it and making videos, and it seems like he's really living like his proper, like the proper life you're supposed to, at least like, I will say as a guru, it's like your job to do that kind of stuff. So I feel like a lot of people want to, it's like, no one can really be a guru, you know what I mean? So people romanticize that kind of mentality and lifestyle, but to see like an actual person doing it, it's kind of sick, like, especially still active at his age.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's just so interesting you mentioned that because, as he says, in fact, I mean, even just in life, right? He basically says something along the lines of, I'm not sure if he mentioned this in the video or not, but if you can let go of your likes and dislikes, 80% of your spiritual progress is complete. And so essentially what he just goes at with that message is that it all comes down to do what's in front of you and do what needs to be done. And the same principle applies to you in the guru, right? Like you said, people tend to romanticize or fantasize about this type of big role, like even Iron Man or guru or anything, right? Even now Wall Street banker, for instance, has been, romanticized in that sense. But do what's, I mean, obviously, I guess of natural inkling or interest to you, but also what's needed to be done, right? That way, this will most likely be something that when you end up picking will be something that lasts longer and it's more sustainable because you actually are genuinely doing it out of self-interest, and again, it's a necessity for people. So I love what you said. Also, before I let you go, what is something you're grateful for?
Ooh, something I'm grateful for. I mean, obviously my friends and family. Being healthy, I think for sure. Being able to stay active, like definitely that, because I'm miserable if I'm not healthy.
What is a message you have for the world? Anything you want to say? Here's a spotlight. Take it away.
I mean, if I'm talking to the world, just don't take anything too seriously. Obviously, like if you're doing important stuff, take that seriously. Keep in contact with friends and family. If you're young, just make it to 30.
You did awesome, man.
Thank you.